Hello, Mellards. It's Thursday, and I know you thought I was going to talk more about the Birch House residency, which I will. I've been working on it. It's been really fun, but today Dad and I watched a movie, and that's what I want to talk about instead. So we just watched Gunpowder Milkshake, which is a Netflix original film, which I knew I wanted to watch because I saw the trailer, and it has Karen Gillan and Lena Headey and Angela Bassett, and they're all awesome women who shoot guns and take down a bunch of men. And if that doesn't sound like exactly the kind of thing I would enjoy, you maybe don't know me as well as you think. And it was exactly that. It delivered on everything I wanted it to do. I can't say that it's got the best plot. It doesn't even necessarily have the best writing. It wasn't as quippy as sometimes those type of films are, but it delivered on everything that I wanted. It had some really fun fights. It had some really good moments. I really liked the cinematography of it in general, and I thought the pacing was actually pretty good and that it told an interesting enough story from beginning to end. It also had one of the most interesting fights I think I have seen. And if you watch a lot of gun movies and fight movies and you can recommend to me another film that has a fight similar to this, I'd be totally in for it. I'm interested. But at one point, Samantha, who's Karen Gillan's character, gets her arms paralyzed, like it's a paralytic injected into each of her shoulders, and it leaves her arms like out of her control. And so she has the young girl tape a knife to one of her hands and a gun to her other hand and like put her finger on the trigger. And we're going to try and ignore the logic of maybe she has enough control of her finger to pull the trigger. I think, I'm not entirely sure, or if she just uses force, but basically she just like, swings around, and I'm sorry for the shaky camera in this moment, but does flips, because her legs work just fine, right? So she does a flip or a turn or a twist. At one point she sits in a spinning chair and spins it around real fast, so it goes fast enough that it raises her arm, and then uses that to shoot the guys and swings her whole body to swing her arm to stab somebody and that sort of thing. She's helped out by the fact that the guys she's fighting against are like using crutches or in a wheelchair or has a neck brace. Like they're already pretty injured because they had been in a fist fight previously. And so it is one of the strangest fights I have ever seen. But it was entertaining. It was really interesting. It was fun to watch. It gave it an interesting dynamic. All of the fights, the way they were shot, I enjoyed. There was a lot of very close quarters stuff, especially in that fight and in some of the other stuff. And so there were just fun things I hadn't seen before. The fight in the bowling alley was also really fun, the non-lethal fight they had just before that. It was fun to just watch Sam completely trounce these guys without any weaponry at all, and that was really cool. And then there were some ridiculous moments, like, for example, the general plot of the film is Sam is hired, works for the firm as a hitman, essentially. Somebody who works on the legal side of the firm steals some money she sent to kill him and get it back. When she shows up, she finds out, she shoots him. And then after shooting him, finds out the reason that he took the money is because his daughter's been kidnapped by some guys who want money. So she takes the money and goes to rescue the daughter. She tries to save the dad. Spoiler alert, he doesn't make it. There are a couple of issues with this in that no one ever asked her to open the suitcase that all of the bonds are in, so she literally could have had it full of paper and no one would have known. In fact, I thought that perhaps that was going to be a reveal, like way at the end, like her going back to the bowling alley, opening that locker, and in that locker were the bonds. She just left them there. That's how I would have ended the movie, so that she had money. But that's me and not the people who created this film, so I guess she just let the money blow up. Anyway, it was just funny because there are these kidnappers. She eventually gives them the bonds and gets the girl, and then chases after them to try and stop them and also get the bonds back. But they all turn on each other and end up blowing up the bonds because they are like all mad at each other. And that was pretty hilarious. Like, just because they weren't characters that were going to be necessary to the rest of the story. So they just blew each other up, which was really funny. I enjoyed that a little bit. I enjoyed most of the fighting. I had a good time in this whole film. The coolest part is that there are a group of women who are librarians by trade, and their library is literally the coolest library ever. And not just because most of the books aren't real books and instead have weapons or gold bars or money or switchblades or all sorts of stuff inside, but because they have two children's sections. One's the Enchanted Forest and one's the Endless Sea, and they look so cool. Seriously, go watch that movie only for that. Like, you can fast forward. It happens in like the last 40 minutes, I would say, when they're fighting in the library. So if you were like, the rest of this movie doesn't sound like my thing, but I like books, fast forward to then, and then think about the fact that this library, run by people who are really weapons peddlers, is the best library you've ever seen. But they have a code, and it's just a fun world they've set up. It's clearly a world full of people who shoot each other, but everywhere they go, like the doctor's office, there's a jar that you put your weapons in. When you go to the diner, the waitress takes your guns. She lightens your load, is what she says. And so everybody just gives up their weapons. It's that very like gentleman's agreement kind of place, which was interesting. It's fun and very different and enjoyable. So yeah, Gunpowder Milkshake. Check it out if you like sort of a surrealist retro world with a lot of shooting. And just imagine a scene at the end where she returns to the bowling alley, opens the locker, and there's all the money for them to survive for the rest of their lives. I'll see you tomorrow.